Alrighty, and welcome back to another episode of the Team Member Perspective podcast show. I am very excited for the episode today. We have a special high-performing team member guest from Utah, Blake Walker. Blake, super grateful that you took some time out of your day to share with us your success over the last few months. And so I've talked to Blake. I've had the opportunity to see her grow and really take her production to the next level, which was really cool. And so when I saw that, Blake let me know she just had her best month ever in financial services. I knew I needed to get her on the show. I knew there was a lot of value that she has that we can all learn from. So enough of me talking. Let's just get right in. Blake, you had the best month of your career in financial services in April, okay? So talk to us about what changed.
Yeah, so I would say it's been kind of like a snowball effect. I've been a team member for about cumulatively 6 years, and so I've had several seasons of fast start on my belt, and I had a lot of big goals for 2022. Really, I didn't feel like I met those goals. And so for 23, okay, well, we're going to try this again. And so I really, I took a lot of your training and a lot of the things that you teach on. And I was like, well, I'm just going to see if this can work for me too. And so I started in January just trying to be really diligent about the number of conversations that I was having, tracking all of that. And it was really cool because I don't even feel like for April that I worked any harder than I have been, at least since January. But I've just done enough that it's like, yeah, it started to snowball. And so for January, I just had enough stuff in the funnel that I just kept pulling it out and it just kept closing. And yeah, by the end of the month, I was shocked at how much I had been able to close.
Oh my goodness, I love that. There's a few things I want to just touch on that you mentioned there. You had the best month of your career in financial services so far, but you mentioned you didn't feel like you were working any harder. I think that's really cool. And, even with me, in producing more than I ever have, we're not working any harder. We're doing the same work. I think it's just we're working a little bit more strategically, right? So I love that. I absolutely love that. As we were talking too, Blake, you talked to me a little bit about a strategy that you feel has allowed you to stay consistent, to be very, very intentional with your activity, to make sure that it's there, right? What we can control is there. And so talk to us a little bit about your win the day strategy that you have implemented.
Yeah, so towards the end of last year, my agent brought up this thing. She just called it win the day. And I think anybody that's a team member can relate to how hectic and unpredictable a day in the office can be. And so I really struggled to maintain focus on production, and I would find myself getting swept up in the whirlwind. So win the day basically is just defining what it means for you to leave the office knowing that it was a successful day. And it's just a couple of metrics. And for me, it's actually changed a little bit. I started in December, and I write it all out. And so every day, if I win, I get a green check mark. If I lose, I get a red X. And I track both work metrics, which are my pivots and my outbound calls. But I also track personal stuff, so like quality time with my family, getting my workouts in. I'm a big journaler too, so getting my journal time is part of winning the day for me personally. And for me, I really feel like that has changed everything because I've been able to discipline with that and be honest. I don't ever give myself a green check unless I really know that I earned the green check. But then it really means it's really gratifying to give myself a green check too, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure. It's that positive reinforcement that, I'm doing what I can control. which I think is awesome. And so, Blake, that's next level. Truly, I feel like that is something that team members that are listening to this, if you're not trying to win the day in your own way and being very intentional with what you can control, right? In this specific case, Blake wants to sell more financial services or sell more insurance. And so she's established a few things that if she does those things every day, she has won the day, right? And so, Blake, if you don't mind me asking, for those team members that are listening, what are the things that you're logging every day that if you do those things, you have won the day? What things are you tracking?
Yeah, so I track my pivots and my outbound calls, and I'll tell you, I feel like it's really not a huge number that I try to hit, because for me, when I decided I wanted to track win the day, I was like, well, I can't have it be anything that isn't attainable. And so I didn't want to start super huge and say, well, I'm gonna make 100 calls in a day. Just, I know for me, that's just not gonna happen. So for me, I'm a sales and service hybrid team member. So a really good metric that I found is if I can hit 2 or more pivots a day and 10 outbound calls, so far I've been able to max out my financial services just doing that. So
love that. Okay, cool. Well, the win the day strategy, guys, figure out how to do that in your own way, right? Find intention, and just make sure you're having that consistent activity. Blake, I have one more follow-up question on that, if you don't mind, and it's this. So let's say that today you go out, your goal is 2 financial service pivots, 10 outbound phone calls, okay? Walk me through your thought process and how you feel. Let's say that if you did hit your pivot goal and you did 2 pivots and you did 10 phone calls, but you did not sell a policy. Talk to me a little bit about that.
yeah, it's funny that you're asking that, because I'm coming off such a great month in April, and so far May has not been awesome, and so I really have had to. I revisited one of your, I think it was a podcast that you did where you said, focusing on what we can control is so much more gratifying than trying to, because we can't control what the customer is going to say, if they're going to pick up the phone. I think especially now, I've noticed customers are feeling the pressure of the rate increases and things like that, and nobody wants to spend more money, and so I'm having to be a little more graceful and forgiving with myself if I'm not finding as many yeses as I had been in the past. And so I think that's, again, where the green check marks, I realized what a trigger they are for me, because then at least I can rest knowing, well, I did everything that I can do, that's in my power, that I can sit here in this chair and do in a day. And so, yeah, I really do think there's a lot of power in focusing on what we can control, because otherwise it's so easy, again, that whirlwind and getting caught up in, angry customers or things like that. I've felt that as a team member, like letting that get me down to the point where I don't even want to try things. So much more fun when I can find a win in the day, even if it's not in like a closed sale.
So much value right there. And I think that strategy alone will help many other team members. If you're a team member listening to this and you want to start selling more financial services, start the win the day, right? And I think why it works, Blake, and I love the way that you approach the day, even if you didn't write a policy, right? That green check mark, right? You did what you could control, and that's what's important. And if we can just dial in there and know that, look, if I go out and I hit my win the day and I have 2 pivots to financial services and I make 10 outbound phone calls, as long as I do that, I'm going to celebrate with myself. I'm going to be okay with that because that's in my control, right? What will happen is, let's say you do that for, a couple days and you haven't written a policy, but you're celebrating with yourself the fact that you did what you can control. Guess what's going to all of a sudden start to happen? Where you're going to show up the next day and you're going to do it over again. You're going to show up the next day and you're going to do it over again, right? And you get into this habit of having conversations, pivoting, making these outbound phone calls consistently, the policies will fall, right? Where I see most team members struggle is the activity, right? 90% of team members that want to sell more financial services simply just do not have enough activity in place, right? And so I love this strategy, Blake, because it's positively reinforcing what we can control, that activity. And it allows us to get into a habit where it becomes part of what we do every day. And even if we don't sell a policy, we're going to celebrate with ourselves, right? Because then tomorrow we're going to show up and we're going to still have that positive momentum going forward, rather than being like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Everyone's telling me no, right? And all of a sudden you get discouraged, right? So it's no wonder why team members are getting discouraged, is because they're only holding themselves accountable for results, right? And so if you find yourself in that situation, implement this win the day. Hold yourself accountable. Make the front of your accountability system activity, because that's what we can control. So, like, I could talk about that on and on and on, because it's something that I've implemented in what I do. It's allowed me to have intention every single day. And regardless of the whirlwind of, maybe I'll have customers angry that day, or claims coming in, or phone calls, or all sorts of service work, I know what I need to do every day, right? And so it gets done. And I think knowing that and getting it done, you're going to get to the next level, which, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You're doing it, which I think is super awesome. So thanks for sharing. Win the day. I am all about that. That is one way to get to the next level. And I feel like it's foundational, right? Blake, do you feel like it's just something that you're always going to be doing now, or do you see yourself stopping the win the day in the future?
Oh, no. And I thought that it was going to be, when I started, I was nervous with, I feel like I know myself really well, and discipline. It's never something that's come easily to me. And so I set up this planner after a conversation that I had with my agent. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try to track this. But I think where it surprised me the most was that positive gratification that I get from it. And that it keeps me focused and on track, because I'm somebody that wants fulfillment, not only from my work, but also in my personal life. And this reminds me of like where I can find that fulfillment. And so, yeah, I think I'll use it. I think I'll use it indefinitely, for sure.
Beautiful. I love that. I think it's great. I don't know why you wouldn't, right? And you're probably thinking the same thing. So thanks for sharing on that. All right, Blake, now talk to us a little bit. I know you've talked a lot about your agent and how she has been a role model, a mentor for you, and has allowed you to get to that next level and continue to develop and grow. So talk to us a little bit about the role that your agent has had in your development as a team member and maybe even as a person.
Yeah. I think so. Brittany Wilson is my agent. I'll give her a little shout out. And she has, gosh, I'm even struggling to like come up with words, but I think one thing that I really, really respect about her is her fearless pursuit of greatness in everybody that she encounters. She interacts with me and the rest of our team, and she expects greatness, and she's not willing to settle, and she'll be, honest with you, which I feel like is that's a really hard thing to do, is to tell somebody something that they maybe don't want to hear. But she's always been very kind and very graceful with me. But I mentioned, like, in 2022, I had a lot of big goals for that year. And then we got to the end of it, and her and I did our, end of the year debrief. And I was like, I don't think that this was the year that I wanted it to be. And she was very upfront in telling me, in a kind way, like, hey, I know that you have more in you. And I think that was really foundational in building up the belief in myself that I was like, okay, I can try something else again. Because I think it's really discouraging for team members, or at least it was for me, having tried so many different things and it just not feel like I could ever get consistency under my belt. And so Brittany's support and her belief in me and her just always telling me like, hey, I know you have so much more in you. And I was like, okay, well, if she believes in me, like I believe in me. And so I really just have to plug that I feel like everybody should have somebody like that in their life that's honest then and that believes in them and that, you know, maybe sees more in them than they see in themselves, because that's how Brittany's been for me for sure.
That's incredible. And I think, you know, we'll have a lot of agents listening to this podcast as well. And I think just hearing from your perspective, Blake, how important being a leader as an agent is, right? And we're gonna have to do maybe a full new podcast on this. But my agent Tyson has been that person in my life that I feel like I needed, right? That mentor, someone that I could look up to, and someone that saw something in me, just like Brittany has seen in you, Blake. And you know, as a team member, having that is incredible, right? It, for me, gives me that positive momentum going forward. And like you said, it allows me to believe in myself too, which is so important. So, you know, I think the position that, you know, agents get to be in being a leader and being a mentor is so powerful, right? And, you know, for the agents listening, you know, hear it from us as team members. You know, Tyson saw something in me and he expressed that to me. He gave me ownership over certain things and said, hey, I believe you. I feel like you can get our agency to the next level in these areas. And that was everything for me. It allowed me to push forward and go and make things happen because I had someone in my corner, which I think is so important. So I love that, Blake. Thanks for sharing. Brittany, incredible agent. Did you have something else to add there, Blake? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I started working for State Farm when I was 20, and I think so I was very young. But I think the opportunity that agents have to give young people an opportunity to come in and learn. State Farm has been so foundational to like my people skills and my customer service skills, and then my financial literacy, even just like on an individual level. And so I love that agents have that opportunity to grow people, because that's what it's really done for me.
So awesome. I couldn't agree more. It is a unique opportunity and one that has a whole lot of upside, right? And I think it's incredible. So thanks for sharing on that. Leadership is important, and agents have that privilege to be in that position, to be that person and influence and help us get out of our own way into the production and life we want, which I think is beautiful. So, all right, last question to wrap this up, Blake. Talk to us about the team member perspective and how, you know, you feel like it has helped you in your role as a team member.
Oh, yeah. So like I said, I've been a team member cumulatively for several years, and so I've been privy to a lot of different strategies and trainings and word tracks and all kinds of different things. And I was a pretty average producing team member, I would say, before I was exposed to team member perspective. I could do some life sales. I really didn't do any health sales really at all. And so what I really like about the team member perspective is that it's so laid back. And so it was really easy for me, I feel like, to implement it. And with those pivots that I'm trying to hit every day, I really just tried to take it on, and I was like, well, I'm just going to see if this can work for me too, because I had seen that, I had seen the results for you and Riley. I've seen your number through, since we're, in Utah. I get those emails every month. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try this, because I'd been a team member for long enough that I was like, I know I have product knowledge. I would just struggle to get into conversation with people. I never knew how to open that up without it being really awkward, honestly, unless I had a lot of rapport with somebody. But I find that rapport, it takes a long time to build. So that's another thing that I really like is I feel like you guys give us really, really transactional goals, but it opens the door, and I found that it helps me build rapport with customers so much faster too. So it's been, I'm so thankful for it for this year because I know I've mentioned a couple times, but last year I had a lot of aspirations. It was tough to get to the end of the year and feel like, wow, I really don't feel like I did everything that I could. And so to have these tools now for this year and to have it finally feel like it's getting into a flow for me, like it's something I can do consistently, it gives me so much more confidence. And then it also, I feel like I've tackled something that I used to think really, really hard and even impossible sometimes.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And a few words from me. That is the goal of the program, is to make it easy for us to have these conversations with our customers, right? Because there are a lot of places of resistance. Talking about death with people that you don't really know can be a little hard, right? And so and talking to people and trying to help them see why they should get a policy that they're not actually required to have can be very hard, right? And so we, as a group,
Yeah.
we really just want to make it as simple as possible. I love how you said that it is laid back, because it truly is, right? We focus on a very upfront approach, and take the sales pressure off the table so it becomes sustainable for us, and we can have conversations consistently. And when we do that, and we're taught exactly how to have them with proven systems and strategies and processes that work, it's inevitable. You're going to have success. I think for the longest time as team members, you just don't know what you don't know, right? And we've been taught how to sell these different products in one way or a couple different ways, and sometimes it just doesn't work for us. So we go out, we have conversations, we get told no, we get discouraged, right? And so having a different perspective, and one that, is exactly what we're doing, is that we're all team members, having perspectives from these different team members that are doing things at a high level, and we get to learn how they're doing it and what they're saying and how they're overcoming objections, has been really cool to see. I know for a fact that my production has been elevated, and I'm a firm believer that a rising tide lifts all boats, which we have seen within the program. So Blake, thank you so much for taking this time out of your day. So much value here. I am very excited to implement more of how I can win the day, and make that more part of what I do, right? And I've taken a lot from you here on the importance of being a leader, an agent in that position, and more than a leader, a mentor, and a friend. And I think, a lot to take from this, but I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. You've got a lot going on. You've got a family. So thank you so much, Blake. I'm excited to see what you can do this year. And I truly feel like this is just the beginning.
Oh, thank you so much, Colter. Yeah, it means a lot, and I'm excited to keep learning from you. So
very good. Well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. That's what we've got for you today. Go have a great week, and we will see you guys next time.